Hi, I'm Peter. I know that I am the last speaker before the coffee break, which is the hardest position for you and for me. I will make this as quickly as possible. I only have 100 slides. No, just joking. So, nice to be here in Vienna. Thanks for the invitation. I'm stepping in as, instead of our director, Mr. Stibernik. He couldn't come, and he's very sorry for that. It's not often that Slovenia is sort of an example of good practice, and we are very proud of what we have achieved lately, but this was, we put Galileo Galilei's quote here because it literally took us ages to do what we did. It has been a fight that has started before even our organization was established, so even before 2010. The result is good. The law is, I think, exceptional, but this is the story of how we got there, where we are today. So, the directive was a help, in a push in the right direction, I think, from the European Union. And we were all thinking, and I think our colleagues from other countries were all thinking, why do we actually need another directive that only states what was obvious from the copyright law from the beginning? So, if you use a copyrighted work, you should pay for it. If it gets you benefit, there is a creator that needs to be paid for that benefit. And I think that that was the most important message of the new directive, but in all honesty, I think it was just reinstating what is clear before. I think that you must know this sort of term, the rights gap. There was a very good presentation on the value gap that was happening between the platforms and especially the music sector. But in Slovenia, we were just reusing this word and saying that we don't have a remuneration gap, we have a rights gap, because our colleagues from the musical sector already have all the rights that we were trying to provide for the audiovisual sector. And the bizarre situation was that if a musician was standing in front of the camera and was being broadcasted throughout the territory, he would get remuneration, but if an actor was acting in front of the camera and was being broadcast, the remuneration would not be there. So I think that it was quite obvious to everybody, even the politicians, which usually do not understand or really care about the copyright law. To be fair, it is very complex and it's very demanding and it's very hard to put on one small paper that they usually read. But the examples that we were using were really, really down to the point. So I think that's what got the attention of them. This was the rights gap that we were talking about. So you see that this is the musical sector had all these rights already in the law from 1995, and the audiovisual part was just blank. And this was something that was very, very helpful to get, as I said, the attention not of only politicians, but before our members and the people that were preparing for the negotiation with when the implementation was on the agenda. I must say that AIPA is a little bit specific in a way that we join all the audiovisual creators under one roof. So we have not only authors, but we also have actors, performers, and we also have producers, which is, I think, a unique position in the world. And it is quite difficult, I must say, because these three branches of creation usually fight with each other, but it gave us a really good insight into what the industry needs as a whole. So we didn't want to just take care of authors and performers, as the directive said. In the end, the result was good also for the producers, which is, I think, for the industry, it's very good. We know, I mean, we're a small country and our industry is very connected. So people who are now producers were maybe actors before or authors before, and it's a mixed pot, and it's a small territory. The budget is small and it helped everybody to understand that where we need to go. And when we showed them this, they said, yes, let's do it, because it's not good only for us, it's good for other wheels in this industry. So where the music had 21 rights managed collectively, AIPA, audiovisual sector, only had 4 rights managed collectively. That was also one indicator that something is wrong. So once we addressed the decision makers and the politicians, we presented these metrics, and they all said, yeah, it's an obvious imbalance in the rights and in the management. And we always had this pushback from the legal teams in the ministry or in the intellectual property office. They said, yes, but this was made, the directives, the international contracts, the law says like this. Yes, it's true, but the law only serves the people. So this is what people are living through, and if the law doesn't serve this, it's wrong. It doesn't matter when it's written, how it is written. If it's not written in the way that it makes some difference, it doesn't even matter. So this was the starting position, and we started this debate more or less, well, in line of what we knew then. We started this debate in 2010, since we exist, and it took basically 13 years to get where we are now. So what happened was we were always trying to identify our friends, because when you go to address the politicians, it's always, if you go there only as a collective management organization, you don't get all the attention that you need to get, because we have mixed feelings. Everybody has mixed feelings about our position. That's why we spoke to our guilds, we found valuable members, and we also talked to our quote-unquote opponents, the cable operators, because in a way you need to get them on board also for the important decisions, because our Ministry of Economy is actually responsible for the copyright, not the Ministry of Culture. So in the Ministry of Economy, the biggest shareholders are cable operators, not the collective management organizations. That's why it was important to get the ball rolling on all fronts and to discuss with everybody. In the end, I must say that cable operators were actually one of our allies when we were changing the law at the end, because they also want a simple management of their rights. And when we were able to provide sufficient arguments and sufficient practice examples how it would make their life easier, it was really helping us with the legal changing process. We also had to, of course, identify the needs of what we need. So the table I've showed before, we need to have a similar sort of level of protection for all the creators. And then we were also talking to our members, to our sister organizations across the world, and getting good practices and just getting the feel of what they are doing for their members as well. So this has been actually a very good combination, to say, to have film producers, performers, and authors work together, because it doesn't matter whether it's a right-wing party, a left-wing party, a center party, a green party, a pink party, whatever. We had a really good sort of coordinated approach. The first one that would knock on the politician's door were always performers, because everybody wants to take a selfie with a performer. It's a fact. Nobody knows film producers at the end, but the performers, they all know. And the performers open the door with all the politicians that we send them to. The next one were the authors, because the authors they're in a way true creators of the audiovisual world. So in Europe is a author-centered production. So I'm guessing it's the same in Austria, because it's like that everywhere. authors have the idea and they go to the producer and say, hey, let's do this project together. It's not that a big studio says, hey, we need 5 screenwriters to write something for us. It's like in the US. It's a different approach. It's a more intimate and personal approach. And for that approach, the authors were really well prepared and they were really well educated and in what rights they need, what the rights will bring to them, because it's, as I said, it's a more author-based production in audiovisual in Europe. And the next one, the last ones in the chain were also the producers. I'm talking about independent producers that are our members, not the big broadcasting televisions, which are also our members, but they function a little bit differently. So the producers went to the politics as an industry. They said, okay, this is our annual budget. We employ, hire, I would say, so many people. We are a factor in the industry of Slovenia, and you need to take a listen to us because we pay taxes. We pay you to work for us. So this was sort of a trinity approach to the legal changes, and it worked because of all the things that I've said. So it was a combination, and I think it was quite a good combination to get the good result in the end. Of course, nothing would happen if we wouldn't have the story behind it. So we had multiple discussions, public discussions. We used all the social media that we could have, roundtables, seminars, and everything. It was hard work because we are really a small team. We are only 8 people, and we do have external sort of helpers. But in the end, it was hard to organize everything and to be present there and to have these long discussions. It was also a bit easy because all the arguments are on our side. There's no arguments contrary to what we were trying to achieve. So in that way, it was a bit easier to make the change. We try to do at least 2 publications per year, so it's like a combination of the industry information, of legal information and everything, and we send these publications to, I think, more than 1,000 addresses. So this, as I said, this process started 13 years ago. It didn't happen overnight, but in the end, where it mattered most in the last month of the legal change and the decision of implementation of the directives in the law, it mattered that somebody knew what AIPA was, somebody knew that there is something going on in the film industry, that it is an industry. So we also did a mapping of the industries to have the numbers of what it means for the government to talk to us. So this all helped into creating sort of a underlying memory of what AIPA is and what the industry does. We had, of course, the events, we had clearly defined goals, and that was what happened was we managed to implement all these rights into the law, and I think that right now in Slovenia it's a strange situation, good one. Audiovisual creators have more rights than musical creators. So I think it's a very good example for that, because we see everywhere, every metric shows it, that audiovisual content is important. Everybody wants to be a part of audiovisual content. Everybody wants to be a part of the industry. So that's why I think it's a good change. And it's not a good color choice, I must say, because the orange dots are where our license was always. And this is where our license is now. So we have achieved four additional licenses, and we are planning to, we are waiting for the broadcasting right license. I hope this year, maybe next year, but we are trying to cover as many of these yellow cases as possible. This was actually what we were working with in the law, and this is the new sort of these points were added in the law. So it is a very legal point of view, so I don't want to bore you too much, but the basis is simple. So we had a provision in the law that all the rights are transferred to the producer, whether or not the contract is concluded or not, except if the contract was written differently in the contract. Being that the producer is always in a better negotiating position than authors, it was not in their interest actually to have written contracts for the work. It was easier to rely on the presumption in the law. We wanted to change that. Not so successfully. I think that there should be only one line written there, not 7 points. But the argumentation was similar as in other countries and similar as in the direction. So, in the directive. So, when a work is created, of course, the producer needs the rights to distribute it, to sell the work forward. But the remuneration must stay with the author and the performer in this case. So we did some sort of a split between, artificially, I would say, we split the exclusive right of the author on two parts. So exclusivity of the right for the distribution, for the work being distributed and exploited, goes with the producer still, but the remuneration right that helps the creator live and not be a social case stays with the author. So it's a simple sort of idea. It was a simple project, but as I said, we succeeded. I think we need to a little bit change this to make it even better for the authors, but I think this was the main part for which we fought, and I hope we will have the good results there. So right now we did this. We applied for new licenses, and then we will get the tariff, hopefully good ones. As we were discussing before with the colleagues from other organizations, lawyers always think that when the law is changed, that's done. Well, we won, it's okay. But the work actually starts with the law. So without the tariff at the end, there's no point in having the best law if you don't have the remunerations going from the users. So this is something that was important to us, and this is just a prediction. We will try to realize this as best as possible. For 2030, we would like to collect around 14 million euros on our market, which is a 2 million market, and it's a small market, and I think that is an ambitious goal, but I think it's reachable. So we will keep you updated where we are on this side. As I said, it's important also that the producers are with us, because the same way as it's a technical sort of point, so I don't know if I would make it, if I can explain it as simple as possible, but when we talk about the rights on cable, for instance, cable retransmission, and the connected services which are recording catch-up, okay, everybody uses that, I'm sure. But for those users, even the producer, which is the king of the castle, sort of, cannot control the usage. Because the producer only sells the work to the broadcaster, and the broadcaster then sells the whole channel to cable operators. And the channel is sold not only in the local country, but all across the countries. So in this, there's a strict line where somebody can actually manage their rights. When it comes from the producer, even from the broadcaster onwards, even the producer cannot manage their right effectively. That's why it was important to have them on board, and this is why we will collect also for cable retransmission of their works, because they cannot control them themselves. And this was important, why we had this, the members within AIPA that, as I said, fight often and often have heated discussions about each other. But this was the point where also the producer said, hey, but you are correct. Maybe we could work together. Maybe there is a point in listening to you, and maybe we can actually get further together than fighting with each other. Because why I think this has happened in Slovenia is just because of that. Because In other countries, usually, when you go in front of the government, in front of the ministry, in front of the politicians, there's always fights happening there. I don't think that's good. That's why we had 2 years of fights within the House. So once we decided to go forward, we were united. And that helped to move the things in the right direction. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. Also, Gregor clearly said, I remember, it was a very, very distinct moment in our process. Before we were talking about we were talking about implementation, and everybody was having their own opinions, and the producer said, okay, but we will go to our friends in politics and we will change that, and etc. And there was a clear, that's why I respect him so much as my boss and as a friend. He clearly said, look, if we are going to if we are not going in front of the politics as a united front, I quit my job today, I'm moving out of this office, and you do whatever you want, but I will not do anything to implement this directive in the right direction. And this is what woke up everybody, and it, as I said, after then we began the final process of 4 years before we started to before we succeeded with implementation. So we have some, as I said, not every law is perfect. As somebody who studied law and has a legal background, I have yet to see the perfect law, and I think that most of my colleagues agree. So what we want to achieve in the further steps is that our law only allows for 10% funds for education, promotion, and social funds. This is, I think, a bit low regarding the market and regarding the industry, how it works. And for us, currently, being a society that has members that are legal entities, so producers, and members that are physical persons, actors and authors, we need to change this, that for right now, no legal entity can get any money from the funds, which is a problem because we cannot finance, I don't know, the festivals, the film festivals, which are important for all of the actors, or things like that. So this is a small detail. I will not bore you too much with it, but as I said, there is room to improve, but so far, so good. So that was all from me. I respected the timeline. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, we'll be here later today. Thanks.